Hello and welcome to another episode of God Sized Stories. This is the next episode in our mini-series about hobbies, and I have Spencer with us. Spencer, tell us about yourself.
Hello, everybody. My name is Spencer Smith, and I am a student pastor at the Village Church of Gurnee in Gurnee, Illinois. I've been married to my wife, Anna, for 10 years, and we have 4 daughters. They are 8, 6, 4, and 2. And any day, any moment, we are expecting twin boys to show up into this world. So we'll see what happens, but that's a bit about myself.
Yes. I'm excited to talk to you about your hobby today. We're in your office right now, and I feel like a lot of people could figure out your hobby by popping into your office and seeing some of the decor sitting around your room. So what is your hobby?
My hobby is fly fishing and also to tie flies. So fly fishing is not like your regular fishing, but it's a way in which you do a lot of science and studying of where you're going to be fishing, what the fish are eating, temperature, all that stuff. Not saying that regular fishermen don't do that, but it's a lot more technical. And at the same time, even how you cast. So if you've never seen fly fishing, the best thing you can do is to Google it, YouTube it, and see what it looks like. Because when I met my wife and I told her that I fly fish, she thought I literally flew from a plane and fished at the same time, to which she thought I was rich. But when she found out what fly fishing really was, she still stuck with me, and then I knew it was true love.
So when did you start fly fishing?
We moved from from California to Michigan when I was in 7th grade. And I really liked fishing, and somebody from our church gave me a fly fishing rod. And we lived in northern Michigan, kind of it's called like the Blue Ribbon Trout Water capital of the U.S. Trout Unlimited is there, and so they gave me a fly rod, and I'm like, oh, I got to figure out how to do this thing. And my whole life I'd always seen fish eating from the surface, and I was like, oh, this is a way to get something out on the surface. Because back then for regular fishing, there wasn't as many options for surface fishing that we have today. So
there you go. So obviously with the theme of the podcast being your God-sized hobby, how does God provide you with rest through fly fishing?
yeah, ever since I was young, I've just really loved to fish. I used to convince my dad to take me fishing before school.
Nice.
But then as I got older and more freedom to go fishing on my own, it's been something where it's one of the few things that I can really, truly turn off my brain in moments where seasons of life where I'm super stressed. Fishing has been something super beneficial for me to where, like, there's been moments where I fished for 5 to 6 hours straight and I don't eat anything. I don't go to the bathroom because I've just been in the zone. Can't stop, won't stop. So it provides a lot of rest of just really able to focus on something that isn't work, isn't life, isn't fatherhood, isn't husbandry, and so forth. And so that's been really good to experience rest in that way.
What about opportunities to grow? Has God provided you any either spiritual or life growth through fishing?
Yeah, there's been tons. Fly fishing it's pretty difficult. Just learning how to cast, learning different techniques. And I know a ton of people that it piques their interests and then they spend $500 and then they're like, oh, oops. And they put all the stuff in their garage and then it's never touched. And then I buy it from them or they just give it to me. But just the amount of patience that you need in order to fly fish. It's a lot like hunting where you try to study beforehand what the fish are going to be eating with different fly patterns. And then once you get to like the actual river and place, you're thinking through when was the last time it rained? What are the food sources? Where is a good oxygenated place? 90% of fish are in 10% of water. And so let's say you actually find a place where you are pretty certain there's a fish that you're going to catch, whether it's under a log, next to a rock, wherever. And then you have to have a perfect presentation. It has to be at the right depth. So fly fishing isn't just on the surface. It can go all the way down to the bottom with different techniques. There's different knots. There's different lengths of leader that it's called. And so you can do all these different things, and it could be completely perfect. And you get one shot at the fish coming and taking your fly. And most times, if you don't land it the right way, there's even different ways to set the hook between trout and like freshwater fish.
Oh boy.
And going upstream, downstream. So let's say the fish goes at it and you miss it. You're not getting another chance at that fish. And you've factored in all these variables, and now it's gone. And even how you play out a fish, that it's not like spin fishing where you just haul in a fish really quickly, where you have to really play the fish out and you have to wear the fish out and exhaust it to actually get it in the net. So you can do all those things, and I've had many a fish where it's on the verge of netting it and then it's gone, and it's like, well, it doesn't count until you kiss it and put it back. So just learning a lot of patience. You can only blame yourself for not doing things the right way. So if a fish breaks off and the end of your line has kind of like a pig's tail curl to it, it's because you didn't tie the knot the right way. So you can, there it is, it's your fault. Yeah. So just a lot of patience, because you can either do things the right way or do things the wrong way. And if you don't take your time, then you're not going to catch fish. Because a lot of guys will just jump in at it, and they won't take their time with thinking through all those variables. And then they don't catch anything, and they get frustrated. But even on days where I don't catch anything, it's still growth for me, because it's time where I can read my Bible a little bit beforehand, or might take 30 minutes just sitting and staring at a river flowing on by and listening to all the different sounds of nature. So
I always love that.
Yeah.
The final big question we'll ask is, so this one's I feel like a great opportunity for this hobby, especially. What opportunities have you had for either fellowship or outreach, or both?
Yeah, definitely both. So as a student pastor, mostly when I was in Michigan, I spent a lot of time hanging out with students and just taking them fishing and teaching them how to fly fish. A lot of students knew how to regular spin fish, but even then, if you become a fly fisherman, you become a better fisherman overall, because you are training yourself how to read water and all these different things. But definitely for discipleship moments where taking kids fishing and where I know where there's going to be fish, and I say, hey, put it right there. And then they snag the biggest smallmouth bass that they've ever had. And they're like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And yeah, just having moments where they kind of put down their guard and they feel comfortable, and they work through the challenges of fishing. But then we, just talk and hang out and ask questions on how's life? What has God been teaching you? Yeah, so just huge opportunity there. And even inspiring a lot of kids to, again, get into fly fishing over the years. I've even taken 2 guys out to Colorado. We drove out together for their senior trip to go fly fishing. So that was wonderful. And then also for outreach, there's a organization called the Mayfly Project that I was briefly a part of. I was trying to start a chapter while I was in Michigan. And the Mayfly Project actually comes alongside the foster care system. Whoa. And it teaches foster kids how to fly fish. And so it's not 5 weeks, but I think it's about 5 times that you get together over the course of 2 to 3 months. And it helps kids who are in the foster care system just have another adult that they can learn to trust, to get out in nature and to really have it be a time of healing for them. And just so it's just a great organization. And at the end of it, kids learn how to tie knots, how to tie flies, how to cast, and then they get all of their own gear. So they get waders, they get a fly pack, they get flies, they get their own fly rod. I think it's around $600 per student that they have come in. So just a wonderful organization. It was founded by two Christians, but it's a non-Christian organization based out of Idaho, is where one of the founders lives, and then another one is a full-time fly fishing guide in Tennessee, I believe. So check it out, the Mayfly Project. Yeah. There's a Facebook page that they have online. So, and like that's even, just like I love that organization because it talks about how fly fishing can heal a person's heart from the difficult things that they've experienced in life. And one of my all-time favorite movies is A River Runs Through It. Recommend, 10 out of 10. Starring Brad Pitt. I forget who the other guy is, but it's based on a book called A River Runs Through It. And in this book, it talks about two young boys who grow up together in Montana, and their dad is a Presbyterian pastor. And the whole family, they all love to go fly fishing together. And so I remember hearing about this movie when I was in high school, and I'm like, I'm a pastor's kid. I like to fly fish. I'm going to love this movie. But what happens throughout the movie is that it starts from their childhood all the way into adulthood. And the older brother goes off to college, comes back home, and the majority of the movie takes place with them being adults. And the older brother finds out that the younger brother is having some gambling issues, is an alcoholic. And in the movie and in the book, the older brother is constantly realizing that he needs to call out his brother. He needs to help save him from himself. But unfortunately, eventually, Brad Pitt, spoiler alert, dies in the end because of his gambling debts, and a gang comes and beats him up and kills him, essentially. But at the end of the movie and at the end of the book, the older brothers found fly fishing in the final scene. And this is where the most famous quote out of the book and movie comes. But as he's fly fishing, he's recounting all the memories that have been tied to his brother. But with those memories come memories of regret, of, oh man, like, I didn't do the things that I should have done to save my brother. I didn't say the things that I should have said to save my brother. And so the thing that he loves now haunts him. So the quote is this at the end of the book. It says, "Eventually all things merged into one, and a river runs through it. The river was cut by the world's great flood and runs over rocks from the basement of time. On some of the rocks are timeless drops. Under the rocks are the words, and some of the words are theirs. I am haunted by waters." So there you see just this lifetime of regret that he now has, that the thing, as I said, the thing that he loves now haunts him. The thing that gave him life is now the thing that represents regret, anxiety, and despair, and so forth. And so I really resonate with this movie now because in the past, one of the ways that I've really have grown is through fly fishing. But in times of really deep ministry struggles with anxiety, with going through a lot in life, I would always just go fly fishing. It was something where I was like, man, I just need to turn off my brain. For some people it's television, eating, whatever, some unhealthy things. But fly fishing was a healthy thing that helped save me and restore me from different ministry seasons. But even in those ministry seasons where there was so much burnout, where I didn't have a desire to go fly fishing anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Where it was, I didn't have this deep urge to be like, man, it's spring, it's warm out, it's time to go, it's game time.
Mm-hmm.
Where I started actually getting into other hobbies, but it hasn't been until recently, in the past like 6 months, where since moving to Illinois, I've realized, man, like, why don't I have this deep desire? Like, I've had it for 30 years and now it's just gone, but it's from that deep sense of burnout. And so now when I do think about fly fishing, it is something where I'm also haunted by waters to an extent, because it reminds me of a dark season of life, but at the same time, it is something that I hope that I can get back into and begin healing and kind of have that be restored. So,
Well, I know in a minor way I've been blessed by your fly fishing. As someone that does ministry with you, I received a very wonderful Christmas gift of a fly fish Christmas bauble. And that was a joyful little, because it was you. Like, it was such a wonderful little gift because it was you wrapped up in a little perfect little bauble. And I was like, well, there you go. And it's going to be on my tree until it gets broken, which is hopefully never.
Also, one of my favorite quotes comes from a philosopher called Heraclitus. He said, a man never steps into the same river twice, for it is not the same river and he is not the same man. So even, every time I've fly fished in the past, it just reminds me that life is just always changing. Rivers are always different. Each season, fish relocate to different areas and the flows go in different directions, in the same manner that every time you step into a river, it's just different. You yourself are different. You're a different person than what you were the day before, the year before, or however long it's been. So that's something that I often meditate on and think about.
Well, Spencer, thank you for sharing this time with us and sharing your hobby, both the highs and lows of it, and just being obedient to all the things that the Lord has for you. And audience, thank you as always for listening. I couldn't do this without you. Goodbye.